chat. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Hopefully we can spend a little time together and explore a couple of things. Let me open my handy dandy laptop here and we'll get started. Now, I looked for an image to share in this video to go with the topic and the title. There is surprisingly few shared images or shared stills of the movie He-Man from the 1980s. So that's why you're not seeing it in the background here, because I wanted you to see the key, what it looked like. I wonder, can I add it? Let me add it. Or does it show? I'll probably show you like every picture in my... There it is. Yay! Okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about. This is not the video I have planned today. I had a different video planned, and then I started cutting some grass and meditating. And yes, I meditate as I do things. I'm not a very still person often. But I was meditating on some things, and it hit me that I never devoted a full video to this topic. And we revisit portals every so often because of the significance that it holds in the media the last probably 8 to 10 years. I think when I went down to Florida in 2018, there was the spiral portal that opened up in the sky, and the water also turned blood red, which was very strange. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for being here, Michael. I was wondering where you've been. Nice to see you. And so I'd been wanting to talk about this for a number of reasons. We talk all the time about how words are changed, vocabulary is changed, how there are double entendres, double definitions, double meanings for the same words that are spelled the same. Confusing, right? And I think that's the point. So as we jump in here, understand that you're going to see a lot of correlation, much like the Fibonacci, the spiral itself. You're going to see a lot going on here that kind of echoes out and ripples outward, and that's the point. It's kind of why we're looking at it. Now, you've seen the media mention portals again. I did a video in the past and pulled up the portal, the spiral in the sky, which again, Florida, you always got strange things going on in Florida. And even the mainstream media has talked about it a little bit. And you've seen things happening in the background, allegedly live, of their news reporting. Meteorologists have seen UFOs in the background, or you'll see them kind of like just appear and then disappear. And so portals are also mentioned a lot in TikTok, and there are people taking videos of things that they think might be portals. And I want to talk about that because that's also biblical. That's also angels are said to move through portals. They aren't bound by time the same way that we seem to be in the here and now. When Gabriel went and came to Mary and told her, requested that she consent to bearing the Lord, he came to her through a portal. Where else do we see it? And we also see keys mentioned. Now, keys are funny because they have double meanings. We have keys that open doors, right? That's what we have today for our homes, our offices. We have keys that open things. We also have musical keys, notes, sounds, frequencies that are said to have a healing or an oppressive nature to them. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about when we talk about this cosmic key from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I think a lot of us can meet at pop culture. And of course, I'm going to show you the correlations biblically with this mysterious key of David that's talked about throughout time. So I've rambled for 4:44. Let's get to it, shall we? Which is interesting because we're going to look at Isaiah where David's key is mentioned as well. So let's briefly, I'm going to tell you about the 1987 movie where this comes from, in case you haven't seen it. Oddly enough, Courtney Cox got her start in a Bruce Springsteen video. This was her first movie credit. And I'm always surprised that her and Jennifer Aniston, who was in Leprechaun, don't buy up all the copies of that, or don't try to suppress that they were in those movies. I have a theory about movies being initiations for them because, as we know now, you can do witchcraft through movies of an illusion type of nature. So keep that in mind too as we talk about this. So the movie is from 1987. It was an action movie called Masters of the Universe. It says Skeletor conquers Eternia and traps the sorceress. To escape execution, He-Man and his allies use a quote unquote cosmic key invented by Gwildor, who looks a lot like those gnomes or dwarfs that you see in that other 80s movie. I can't think of it right now, but they also use portals in that movie too. You'll see there's a lot of connections like that. Just like you see in Jim Carrey roles too. There's a lot of connections in Ed Harris movies. And so again, you're going to see a lot when we talk about pop culture. So that's where I like to kind of meet. And you see them open a portal, an interdimensional portal with this cosmic key. It teleports the group to 1980s Earth, where an intergalactic battle ensues. So just to tell you a little bit about the background, at the center of the universe, at the border between the light and the dark, stands Castle Grayskull. So it's right on that borderline. For countless ages, the sorceress of Grayskull has kept this universe in harmony, but the armies of darkness do not rest. Skeletor's army breaches the castle, takes the sorceress captive, and begins absorbing her powers to dominate the universe. There's a lot of stories like that, too, about us harvesting angel energy. And we're also told that they consume us, that their progeny cannibalize us. So, again, there's a lot here, and there's a lot missing from the biblical history that we're not told about. So, looking for truth in movies, I don't think is so odd anymore. So it says during a rescue mission, He-Man, Man-at-Arms, which is like his dude, and Tila save Gwildor, the dwarf guy. He's a locksmith who created this cosmic key. Now, it's like a keyboard. You see how it is here, how it's shaped? You can actually buy these online. And each one of these prongs, I guess you would say, is a different note or a different frequency, a different sound it puts off. It's kind of like dialing a phone number. If you want to open a portal, you have to know where you're opening it to, right? You have to have an address. So each one of these prongs would put forth a different frequency, a different note, or a different chord, and that's how they got to Earth. They had the specific frequency and or address or phone number to get to Earth to open a portal in Earth. That's important, and that's also mentioned in the Bible too, because there are portals that are for the 12 tribes that are heavenly, that are said to be heavenly, and then you have those portals that are lead to the darkness and darker spots. Now it says once in California, the cosmic key is accidentally separated from the group, and it ends up in the hands of two teenagers, which is Courtney Cox and this other dude. Now, they think it's a musical synthesizer, of course, in the 80s, so they unknowingly activate a signal that brings Skeletor's mercenaries to Earth, forcing He-Man into an urban showdown. Oh, how funny. Okay. So we're going to go real quick to the wiki page. I did share already in the description box. I shared the links if anyone wants to explore on their own, or you think I might have missed something, because I don't read everything to you. I don't think we're children in that way. If you want to go look for more, you can. It says Skeletor is planning to exploit Grayskull's hidden powers when the quote unquote great eye of the galaxy, a portal in the castle's throne room, opens and Eternia's moon is correctly aligned with it. Now, again, this echoes back also to Howard the Duck, which we already looked at in a previous video, probably not even a month ago. And I do have a portals playlist, so I'll add this to that one. Great eye of the galaxy. Now we have another commonality too. We have the all-seeing eye in our reality, in our media, in our entertainment world, and they have the great eye of the galaxy in He-Man, and that's a portal that is opened in the throne room, which is interesting because that kind of makes me think of Lord of the Rings, right? With the eye of Sauron, which I thought was, again, another, these things that you see repetitively like this, that's where I kind of try to look for truth. Now, we're going to look here and see if it tells us anything else about the key itself. So hang on a second. Now we're on the fandom page. Now this is interesting. It says Heroes of New Earth, but it's spelled Newerth, which is cool. So the portal key, this thing. When activated, it teleports the user a short distance to a targeted location. Let's see. No, that's not telling us anything about that one. Okay. So we're going to go back. Hold, please, while I grab something. Now, again, you have this portal. In Howard the Duck, there was a laser, right, that they needed to use, which would resemble an eye in the sky as well. So all of these different connections, I think, are really neat. All right, let's open this one real quick, and then we'll get to David and his key and what is said about that. All right. Now, I could redo this whole plot line, but I'm not going to do that because it's a little ridiculous. Dolph Lundgren is actually He-Man, which is interesting. He has long hair in it. And, of course, he's younger than he is now. Is he even still with us on this side of the veil? Now, the film itself is not like the comic book, which I think is interesting, too. You want to pay attention to that. But I don't think the way the key operates changes. I think that's the same in the movie and in the comic book. Again, you want to look for commonalities. Having media literacy means training your pattern recognition skills, right? And when you hear or see things repetitively, they're almost like subliminal messages pointing you in that direction. Some for your betterment and some for your not betterment. Think of life as a choose your own adventure book when I'm speaking this way. I try to use different metaphors to reach a variety of people. Now it says they actually also have a sequel. And there's a new one coming out set to release on June 5th of this year, which is what made me think about it again. And Jared Leto is Skeletor, which is interesting because he's like a cult leader now, allegedly, which is wild. Okay, so the way that it works does not change. So again, you basically, to get to a good place, a place you want to go, you have to have the address, and each time one of these is pressed, a different part of it will open up. Now, what is interesting, I could not find any still images of the portals themselves opening up, but if I recall this correctly, search for it on YouTube. They actually don't just put off a frequency or a sound, they also put off a color. Now, celebrities who talk about this get a lot of flack and a lot of grief, and they get called New Agers, and they get persecuted for talking about this by both sides, by Christians, by everybody. And I mean media Christians. But we know that sound is important, and God created everything with sound, with the word. And so it makes sense that color and light coincide or correspond with specific frequencies, almost like the game Simon from the 80s. So when each one of these is opened up, you have a specific color, a specific frequency, which opens a specific portal to a specific location. God, I hope that makes sense. If you've ever seen, oh geez, my brain today, Stargate, any of the Stargate movies or the series, actually, I like both of those, the movie and the series. Now, let's look what this has in common with the Bible, because this is interesting. We'll look at what AI tells us, and some of this is conjecture, so be careful. But we're going to talk real quick about solfeggio tones. And again, this is not new age. This is actual, real, provable, and repeatable science. And I believe that true, repeatable science is the fingerprint or footprint of the creator. It is proof of the creator. When you look outside, you can't deny, at least I don't think, that there's a creator. So in biblical music, the key of David refers to a specific musical tuning. Calibrate, now this is conjecture, I believe, because I don't think they've discovered exactly which frequency this is, but I'm going to read this to you, what AI says. It says calibrating the A note to 444, which is interesting because when I looked at the timer, we were at 444 when I actually started. 444 hertz instead of 440 hertz. This specific tuning places the C note at 528 hertz, which is often referred to as the solfeggio miracle or healing tone. Now, again, that part I think is conjecture, but let's finish reading this. The biblical connection, literal scriptural mention, the quote unquote key of David is a prophetic concept mentioned in the Bible, symbolizing authority, access, and total rule. Now, when they talk about the keys of David, they're pointing back to Christ and to his progeny, right? And his who's going to inherit the keys of David and who will be able to open the seals, who was worthy to open the seals. So we'll look at that in just a moment. Now, again, a little bit of that is conjecture because every verse, again, has more than one meaning. It has a literal physical intention or meaning, but it also has a more spiritual, esoteric type of mention. And again, I'm not New Age. I believe in Christ. But I think we need to get on board with, again, real repeatable science and frequency and the way the cathedrals were built and the bells and how much healthier people were in the past. So the concept was adapted by Christian musicians and researchers who believe, again, because it's conjecture, this part, that 444 hertz was the exact tuning King David used on his harp to soothe King Saul's troubled spirit and play the Psalms. Standardizing music, and this is fascinating. You should check this out. There's actually a couple documentaries about it right on YouTube. Standardizing music to 440 hertz was not adopted until the 20th century, right when our health started to decline. And I'm not a doctor, and this is not medical advice, but I am a researcher and I am autodidactic. So, meaning I teach myself when there's something that I don't know. So this is something that you could look into on your own, and it is worthwhile, I believe, because there's a lot of information about it on YouTube. Just don't get to the point where you're doing like the binaural tones. Those can be hypnotic. We're talking about regular music, classical music, instrumental music, Native American music even. I really like their flutes. We're talking about, just music. Now, standardizing music to 440 was not adopted until the 20th century, but many believe that 444 hertz tuning is more aligned with ancient acoustics and natural harmonies. There's actually an episode of this old show, I think it was American Bandstand, and it might have been the Mamas and the Papas who refused to, they wanted them to lip sync because they wanted to play the music at the different hertz. And that was their way of protesting. They stood there, but they didn't move their lips or anything to prove that, they were not aligned with what was the agenda. So again, this is quite the rabbit hole to get down to when you start talking about any of these things, frequency, keys, portals. They all coincide. You'll see that sound is huge in our world. Now, it's called the miracle tone because 444 tunes the C note to 528 hertz. This key is heavily associated with soaking, worship, and prayer music. It's believed by some practitioners to have physiological and spiritual healing properties. Instrumental use. The 444 hertz tuning is frequently used with the kinnor, the ancient Hebrew harp. I might have said that wrong. Kinnor. Kinnor. or the piano to produce a peaceful, resonant sound. Now it says, explore additional resources, blah, blah, blah. And let's go here. Now, again, we are exploring. I do have a link pulled up, but we're going to look a little more at this, and we're going to pull that verse up, Isaiah 22:22, which is crazy because 22 has come up a whole lot in reference to the Antichrist, in reference to verses that are applicable to us today. It's kind of fascinating. So let me find Isaiah. And 22:22. Crazy. Okay, so this is a prophecy just for those who are just getting here. Okay, we'll start at 22, but again, you really want to read the whole book to have context. But in reference to the missing key of David, because a lot of people still think it's missing or call it that magical key of David. I think like the mystery key, because again, we're not certain, but we've made scientific guesses to and you can again look those tests up too on YouTube, where they different tones will create like different shapes, almost like Metatron and sacred geometry and snowflakes. Again, you have all these commonalities. So 22:22 in Isaiah, and I will place the key of the house of David upon his shoulder. And when he opens, no one will close. And when he closes, no one will open. So that is one verse. And again, you should read the whole book. Now it says, God gives the key of the house of David to Eliakim, symbolizing control over the royal kingdom. That's why people think that it represents authority. It's David's key, which is Christ, ends up being Christ in the New Testament. In Revelation 3:7, Jesus declares he holds the quote-unquote key of David, signifying his sovereign authority over heaven, salvation, and the kingdom of God. Music and the key of David frequency. Now, again, some people aren't aligned with like the soaking thing if they are Christian. I have to argue that in a certain manner. I would not do the binaural tones because they are hypnotic, and through hypnosis or the wrong type of meditation, you can lose your free will. Like you can pass it over. They're very sneaky just now, these lower level frequency beings, sentient beings, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, and so that they will garner your consent however they need to. And sometimes it's just by sending you a video and having you watch it. And sometimes I'll send back to people, yeah, that's a cool video, but I don't consent because, again, they use technology a lot to trap us into giving away our own personal sovereignty, which Christ, again, I feel like reinstates in us once we understand, oh, we have a choice here. We don't have to just go along with whatever we're told. We can, we have choices. So in Christian wellness and prophetic worship circles, the phrase key of David is used to describe an instrument or voice tuning set to 444 with A equals to 444 hertz. Healing frequency is often linked to the solfeggio frequencies, which I highly recommend those. I've listened to those from time to time, and I do think that they have some type of calming effect. And again, don't be meditating and doing special poses and like chants, but sitting and meditating on a specific verse, or if you're ill, putting on a certain frequency or certain playlist or whatever with all the music at that hertz, and then reading Psalm 91. There can be healing found in that. And again, we're talking of a spiritual nature because I'm not a doctor, so none of this is advice. Now it says atmospheric shift. Proponents believe this frequency creates an atmosphere that mirrors the therapeutic, spiritual healing King David brought to King Saul. Now, here we have the musical legacy where it's mentioned further in scripture. It describes King David as a highly skilled musician and the organizer of temple worship, which is interesting because that would almost set him as being the antithesis of Satan or Lucifer, because Lucifer started out as the choir director, the musical director of the kingdom of heaven in front of the throne of God. And it was the closest to God. It was the one angel that was able to get the closest to the throne of the Father. Um, so that's interesting that King David is also a highly skilled musician and that he is also an organizer of temple worship, which would be today what we call a choir director. So again, more commonalities. According to 1 Samuel 16:14 through 23, when King Saul was tormented by a distressing spirit, David's soothing music on the lyre or the kinnor or the harp would calm him. David organized thousands of Levites to play instruments and sing in the tabernacle, inventing new instruments for praising God. The concept is also celebrated in the classical Advent hymn, O come, Emmanuel. The hymn is based on the antiphons. Antiphons. I don't know where the stressor is there. Specifically, O Clavis David or O King of David, which are sung in the days leading up to Christmas to petition Christ to open the gates of heaven. And again, you hear mention of who, and what you can do here too is not just the key of David, but if you do a search, like, hold please, I'm going to just show you how to use this Bible app. It's the U version. I'm going to type in key, right? And I'm going to see how many verses come up with the word key. Because again, key would imply the opening of a doorway, the opening of a seal, right? The opening of a covenant of a new age. So Revelation 21, and I saw an angel descending from heaven holding his hand, the key of the abyss and a great chain. Luke 11:52, woe to you, experts in the law, for you've taken away the key of knowledge. You yourselves do not enter, and those who were entering you would have prohibited. Ooh, that's harsh, right? The prophets and the apostles, man, they get down. They don't mess around. They get down and dirty sometimes when it comes to like their admonitions and not extortion, exhortations. And then Isaiah 22:22, which we looked at, Revelation 9:1, and the fifth angel sounded the trumpet, and I saw upon the earth a star that had fallen from heaven, and the key to the well of the abyss was given to him. So that sounds almost like a star that had fallen from heaven. I saw upon the earth a star that had fallen. Does that mean it's a fallen angel? Does that mean it's Satan? He gets the key to the abyss, Lucifer? Or is it one of the angels in the Euphrates? Judges 3:25, and after waiting a long time until they were embarrassed and seeing that no one opened the door, they took the key, and opening it, they found their Lord lying dead on the ground. Revelation 3:7, and to the angel of the church of Philadelphia write, thus says the Holy One, the true One, he who holds the key of David. He opens and no one closes. He closes and no one opens. And again, like I said, you see the antithesis, and then you see the opposite, these opposing forces, light and dark. And to point back to He-Man, their battle begins at the border of light and dark where that castle lies. So I also want to point to the fact that the biblical story is in every story that you see out there. It is replayed over and over. Not the whole story, but bits of it. Pinocchio, I think, again, we started that on this channel, on the Bree and Jen channel. I did a whole video on Pinocchio and Little Red Riding Hood and the Mandela effect and how they were all intertwined and, in the Bible verses. And Pinocchio tells the story of Joseph basically being trafficked by his own family because Pinocchio gets to trusting these people that he meets and they sell him out, right? And the same thing happens to Joseph in the Bible. You also see him coming back to his father, his creator or maker, as the prodigal son. So every story, every movie that we see out there, you could say has some, just like the Lord of the Rings and the Eye of Sauron. Tolkien even spoke about it in interviews, that a lot of it was biblically inspired, and a lot of people don't understand that or know that. They think it's occultish, but again, everything is God's. So when something becomes a cult, it begins as God's, but it becomes perverted, inverted down here on earth by us and our misunderstandings of how things should operate. So I think that might be all that I have for you today regarding this chunk of portals. So there's one other thing to mention too. When we see Joshua and he brings down the walls of Jericho, of this city, because every city has walls around it, right? Because of the giants. Look at the Great Wall of China and the Mongolians. They must have been some big honking beings. My son pointed me to that years ago when a lot of this started in 2016. And I believe we're experiencing a lot of retrocausality, these big changes that are happening to our society, and what is going on kind of has already echoed backwards and has affected us before things even started happening with lockdowns and whatnot. Sorry, I got a little off topic there. I think, is that it? Oh, the key. Joshua is told by God to, at certain times, walk around the wall of Jericho. Okay, so picture that. He's just one person, and I think he's got a couple people with him. And he's told to expose himself, right? Because Rahab had hidden him to get inside. And then he comes back out to report, and God tells him to basically expose yourself, and at certain hours, walk around the walls, and play your horn. So he does this, and the walls fall. What do you think causes the walls to fall? Well, think about it. If he's in the desert or even on the right type of soil, and he's walking around and walking around and walking around, he's going to create like this burrow, right? Especially the other people that are with him. You're going to create like this trail, especially in sand. And if you're blowing a horn, and God is telling you the perfect time to do this, the right time of day, and you're doing this every day at the specific time, that would almost act like controlled demolition, wouldn't it? Sound and frequency, the right sound and frequency brought down the walls of Jericho. Sound and frequency put up the Great Wall of China, put up the Great Pyramids, with probably the help from giants. But they used a lot of sound and frequency and a lot of steam. We didn't need cleaners. We didn't need all these antibacterial things. Everything was very regimented and very, what do I want to say? Environmentally sound. We used things in the proper way back in the day. So when we're talking about frequencies being healing, um, we should give some credence to that. We should test these hypotheses more often, and we should put the bells back in the churches. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I did almost get off topic a few times, but I hope the point got across, and I do hope that you research this topic more on your own. I will put this with the playlist. If we see any more on this topic, you can bet that I will be talking about it. Have a blessed day, you guys. Thanks so much.